Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Anatomy Live. Yay. So today we're going to go over the back view of the torso. And this is going to be fairly straightforward. We've covered a little bit before, but yeah, we're just going to go a little bit more in depth today. I'm going to start with some of the muscles underneath. We've gone over the deltoids before, so we'll start there just to get us back into the rhythm of things. Just to remind everyone, this bone here, where the arm is, where that connects to the shoulder, this is known as a humerus. So these are the humerus. This is your scapula, and that attaches to the back of the rib cage up here. Atop of the scapula, you have the spine of the scapula here. This is your acromion process, which like wraps around to the front where your collarbone hits. This is your pelvis. Okay, there's a point here at the back of your pelvis where it'll wrap down and like go under. That little point where it reaches a peak, that's known as your pieces. And what that stands for is your posterior superior iliac spine. And the iliac spine, or the iliac crest, excuse me, is this curve here that'll wrap to the front. And on the other side, there's a peak of convexity known as your ACEs, which is the anterior superior iliac spine. So you have your anterior and posterior, and there are these are connection points for the muscles. And here, that little point there is known as your coccyx. It's right in the back. This piece on the back of the spine, or the bottom of the spine that connects to the pelvis, this is known as your sacrum. And these bones that connect to the pelvis here, this piece at least is known as a great trochanter, but these are your femurs here. All right, so to get us back in the rhythm, we're going to go ahead and start with the deltoid. The back of the deltoid will connect to the entirety of the spine. So it'll come down and wrap itself around. So the reason why it wraps around here is because this is where your tricep is. Your tricep will come out, come down, come out, come down. It attaches to this part of the humerus. That's how your tricep will look. The same thing over here. So that deltoid attaches to the back, or the entirety of that spine of the scapula. It'll attach right here at the acromion, wrap itself around, and attach itself about a third of the way up of the humerus. Remember, it wraps around that tricep, which comes out. Yeah. Pretty straightforward. So this is a good place to start and get us geared up for the rest of the anatomy of the back. Now, the scapula has these muscles underneath the deltoid. And those muscles they're not entirely important to remember for drawing per se, but you can see them sometimes whenever you're figure drawing. You'll see the little dark light in there that creates those crevices and peaks and whatnot. So we're just going to quickly go over them and understand where they attach. Okay, so at the back of this scapula here, I'm going to bring that out a little bit more. This is the attachment point for the teres muscles. Now, the infraspinatus. So the infraspinatus will attach to the entirety of the back here, or the back of the scapula, and it'll attach itself to the corner here. So that's going to be the infraspinatus. And then you have your teres minor and your teres major. Your teres major actually connects to the top of the humerus bone here. It'll connect right underneath that ball of the shoulder. And then the teres minor will connect in the same spot as the infraspinatus. So you have the infraspinatus in this part, your teres minor connecting up there, and your teres major connecting up here. And that just provides more support for the control of the shoulder and the control of the arm. Gives you a lot of movement. That's pretty straightforward, but we're gonna go ahead and erase this inside, so that way we can see the shoulder. This guy has massive shoulders, as you can see. I'm gonna erase this one here. Once again, the infraspinatus attaches here. It'll attach to this part of the scapula, attaches all the way, and then the teres major comes up here, attaches to the humerus up there, and then the teres minor will attach to the same spot here. So all in all, you're going to have this shape and those little crevices there. That's where those muscles create those indents in the skin. So just to get the bigger idea of how these muscles interact, your lat does not connect anywhere on your rib. Your lats actually connect to your humerus as well. If you take your arm and you just lift it up and out, you lift it up and out and feel up the side of your ribs all the way up to your arm, you can feel that lat coming out and protruding and attaching into your shoulder there, to the back of your shoulder. Your lat is properly known as your latissimus dorsi. And your lat will actually, believe it or not, connect to the front of or like the front side of your humerus. So it doesn't connect immediately to the side. It kind of wraps a little bit, and it'll come out and down, or in and down, excuse me. And it'll have a connection point right at the top of that pelvis. So it'll come down right here, and right down the center of the spine, all the way down to this portion of that muscle. That's all your lat. This is all of your lat. And this intermediary section and all of this here is known as aponeurosis. And if you were here with my last week, you'll remember that aponeurosis is this grouping of muscles that interlock and stiffen. And so they provide a lot of support, a lot of strength for your muscles. And that's what this part, that connection point. So we're gonna erase this a little bit, and this will attach, the aponeurosis will attach just outside here to the top of your sacrum, right there. So that is where all that aponeurosis is. Your lat wraps just underneath the bottom of that scapula and attaches to the spine, kind of supports this area here. So we're gonna erase those ribs. The ribs are there as more of like a marker. I think I have this tendency of like making my ribs really large and really long, giving long torsos in my drawing. So that's a tendency I can learn to correct as I continue in my profession. So we have that connection point to the spine. We have that aponeurosis starting here, connection point, aponeurosis, and all of this in here is aponeurosis, those hardened, supportive muscle fibers. They're very hard. They're like very tough. You can feel it in your back. If you like feel down there in this part of your back, you'll feel how tough those are. Okay, so Now they actually like kind of come in a little bit more than what I have it. Your obliques are a little tricky. So your obliques will also wrap around, but they wrap around down here and they'll wrap around to the front. You'll see them kind of do this little number. Just like that. So your obliques attach to the ribs. You can see like a little bit. I don't know if you can. They'll attach to these ribs in here, and they'll go down and around. Down and around. That's what creates that little protrusion. And they'll wrap to the front of the pelvis there, and they'll create, if you remember from last week, they'll create this abdominal wall that protects your organs from falling out. And there's a little bit of the obliques there. Now, the biggest part besides your lats of the back are actually your traps. Now, there's this idea that the traps are just they're just connection points up here. You know, like these are your traps in here. Which, yes, these are also your traps, and they will connect to the top of the spine of the scapula. So the deltoid will attach to the bottom of that spine, and the traps will attach to the top of that spine. But the thing with your traps is that when they attach to that end point of the scapula, they actually come down. They come all the way down to the bottom of your rib cage. So they'll create this little number, attach, and then they'll create this little number, and they'll attach to the spine at the bottom of your scapula, or at the bottom of your spine. So you have this big piece. You have this line in the middle separating the two traps. And there is a ponerosis right in the middle. It's a lot less than what the lats have. And right here, you'll have the C7, and they'll attach in this like nice little diamond shape. But your traps will attach here, the spine of the scapula, wrap themselves around. And that's a pretty large portion of your back there. Boom. Boom. Right. Yeah. Don't forget your infraspinatus and your teres minor, teres major. What's your major? And of course, your deltoids in here. So, like I said at the beginning of this live, the back is very straightforward. Very straightforward. You have very big pieces that create the back. And these muscles are extremely supportive. They're what create your tension and your torque in your back, and they provide a lot of strength. That's why it's very important to build your back whenever you're on a fitness journey. I like to do pull-ups for my lats, and sometimes I'll do deadlifts for my back, for like just a general back lift. But it's mostly your legs whenever you deadlift. Yeah. This guy has massive shoulders, by the way. I tend to give my characters massive shoulders. So remember, your trapezius will attach to the back or the top of the spine of the scapula. Right in here, that's that little attachment piece. Your deltoid will attach to the bottom of the spine of the scapula. And remember from our previous lives that the deltoid has multiple heads. You have your middle head here, your posterior head, and then your anterior head in the front. And this is that connection point here, the humerus. Now, your trapezius follows a pattern. Like everything goes from its attachment to this point. So from the middle all the way up to this point of the trap. And that it follows that flow as you get, or as you travel up and down the trap, it will follow this point. And I said in one of my previous lives that the muscles are like a wormhole or a vortex. They will always follow a certain origin down to like a singular point. And that point is typically the attachment. So like these deltoids, they follow this beautiful little flow down into that attachment point, and they'll all create this like wormhole or like black hole or something. Same thing with these lats. From the entirety of their connection point, they'll follow its attachment all the way to this attachment in the front of the humerus. Same thing with the traps, the lats, the obliques, like everything. So now that we have this part done, we can go ahead and start drawing or coloring in the muscles at least. We have that connection point, the edge of the deltoid in here. Here's that attachment. Get that filled in there. Edge of the muscle down there. There we go. Get this flow of the muscle in here. Attachment here. These are very strong neck muscles, by the way. Like they connect to the occipital, which is the part of the back of your head. There's like a little bump there. That's where the traps attach into. They provide a lot of strength for your neck. I love this beautiful little flow of the trap. It's almost like a waterfall. You know, it's just, or like a river. These are attachments to the C7. Attachment to the spine of the scapula in here. And then it rolls down and connects in the center. We'll just leave that a little bit. And we're gonna draw that attachment in with like the pencil. Just to show that the aponeurosis is there. And then it's your infraspinatus and in here. Teres minor in there, and then your teres major in there. What's your major? It's like the second time I've done this in this live. Okay, get that. And of course your latissimus dorsi rolls all the way into that attachment there. Here. Attachment. And your oblique that comes around, it'll wrap to the front. Remember, those obliques have these attachments to your ribs. There's no like attachment to your spine from the obliques. It's just straight from your ribs. Similar to the serratus, except the serratus will attach itself to the inside of the scapula and then wrap to the front, whereas your obliques attach to the back of the ribs and wrap to the front. Okay, so now that we have these little lines of motion. Remember, the muscles flow in the direction of their attachment point. Right, right. Just like that. Oh, I'm kind of like fucking up these lines. Oh, it's fine. Yeah. Right, right. So all the way in there. Right. And so the reason I'm showing the flow of the muscles is because the flow has an effect on how it appears on the skin. So this attachment point down the center, like you can tell when somebody's spine is protruding, right? That's because the bones are protruding through the muscles. I mean, not like they're not like tearing your muscles or anything. They're just like underneath. But like this part of your scapula, when somebody like flexes that part of their back, you can see where the scapula protrudes on the skin. And right in here, that little attachment zone of the spine of the scapula, you can see where that is on the back. It'll create sometimes a highlight up top or a low light underneath. What do you call that? A dark light. So like it all has an effect. The cause or the muscle flows and their attachments, right? And the effect is how they're viewed on the skin. And like I said, this is like that wormhole, just everything in there. Right, right. Now remember, the traps will follow this attachment in here, right? And they'll even from here in the C7, they'll just like boom, right there. And just go up from this center. Oof, more like to the side here. They'll attach, and they'll come down in here. Yep. Now, if you're confused about something in here, let me know. Ask a question. Remember, that's the edge, that muscle in there. Go this way. Right. And just to show that aponeurosis in the middle here. Right. Then all that aponeurosis in here, they'll like go to the center here because that's where they connect down the spine. Right. Thank you for all the likes, guys. I appreciate it. Okay. Right in here, down there. So in my last live, I was talking about the deltoids and how they move down to this connection point. And so the deltoid, I love the deltoid. It's such an integral muscle if we didn't have shoulder muscles, we wouldn't be able to rotate our shoulders or rotate our arms. And this is like the nexus point between our torso and our arms. Our arms are completely independent of our torso. If we didn't have our torso, we wouldn't be able to live. Our arms, we can live without them. But this deltoid is such a beautiful muscle. And I love the way it just comes out and just rolls right into this singular point. Now, this singular point, it goes underneath. Believe it or not, it goes underneath the bicep and in between the bicep and the tris. So it creates this like little indent in the skin. If I were to draw a person from the side, right, and this is their shoulder, that's their pelvis in here. This is their rib cage in here. So that deltoid, and this is their arm. That's a pretty big arm, honestly, but that's their arm, right? That shoulder will create this little point in here. Their tricep will come out and roll, and then their bicep will come out just like that. And there's this little point that attaches to the tendon of the triceps in here. The tricep is massive too. So just to be a little bit more accurate, that's your elbow and then muscles underneath. So that little point you can articulate by, you don't even have to draw the lines. You can draw this like little shadow shape in here, and you know that that's the bottom of the deltoid. That's the bottom of it. And then this is the bottom of the tricep, and here, and you create that little indent for the insertion point of the bicep, and there's like this little shadow shape for the forearm muscles, and yeah. Right. So that's the effect that the deltoid gives when it inserts inside. There it is. And then, of course, your little infraspinatus, it all goes toward that connection point. And just whoop. Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and put some labels for these muscles here. That's your C7 in there. And that's a pretty good marker too. That'll tell you, that'll help with proportion whenever you're drawing a figure or just illustrating or something. And this is your C7, and that's your vertebrae. This big muscle in here, right? That is your trapezius. Ooh. This is your deltoid. And this is your latissimus dorsi. And these little muscles that I did not color in, which is fine, it's fine, are your obliques. Now remember, the traps will attach to the occipital and to the spine of the scapula, and then just straight down your spine. They roll all the way down, provide a lot of support. Your latissimus will attach to the spine underneath the traps, and then attach to a point on top of your humerus, right underneath the shoulder, and come all the way down, attached to your pelvis with a lot of aponeurosis in there, both sides. Remember, they create this like little wall outside of your ribs. Your obliques will attach to the ribs and come down and around, wrap to the front of your torso. Your deltoids obviously attached to the spine of the scapula and attached to the humerus right there. All right. So that's going to be it for today's live. If you stuck around, thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. Have a great day.